Good evening. This is a presentation about the City of Saginaw's 2020 planned construction for roads, bridges, and other city infrastructure and facilities. I'm Beth London, Deputy Director of Public Services with the City of Saginaw, and I will be presenting this information. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about road revenue, where our funding comes from. Then I'll move into the upcoming construction that we have planned for this summer. And then I'll talk a little bit about future construction in the upcoming years. The majority of our road funding comes from the state gas tax through the Act 51 revenue. And this is just a graph showing our revenue from 2011 to 2020. And I just want to point out that in 2015, the legislature passed a plan to increase our road funding, and it's increasing incrementally, and the last year of the increase will be 2021. Also want to explain that originally we had budgeted $7.6 million for 2020, but that number will be adjusted through a budget adjustment based on revenue that we're going to lose, or we are projected to lose based on the effects of COVID-19 in the purchase of gasoline. The projected revenue, the $7.2 million, is around $400,000 less than we originally projected for this fiscal year. We expect this funding to be made up from the fund balance in the Major Street and Local Street Fund. This is a graph that shows additional road revenue that the legislature has given the locals since 2014 from the state general fund. What I really want everyone to notice here is that in 2020, this fiscal year, we did not receive any extra road money through the state from state general funds. This is a graph that shows the money the city has received from the federal gas tax, and this is all over the place. There's explanations on the bottom of why it sometimes goes up, sometimes goes down. In 2020, we have received $954,000. That money is being spent on the reconstruction of Niagara Street. We receive other road funds through the state of Michigan, but mostly what you see represented here is community development block grant funds. There's additional funding in some of the other years. If you read this list, you'll understand where those road funds came from. This just talks about how we select our road projects based on traffic volume, street functional classification, our PASER ratings, accidents, complaints, how much money we're spending on cold patch material, on which streets we're going to. We also try to coordinate our projects with other utilities or other jurisdictions. We also are very mindful of economic development or an economic impact we may have in a business district or in an industrial area of the town. We also look at community benefits if it's by a major traffic generator or maybe a recreational facility. PASER ratings are important just because we try to find the right fix for the right road, and a lot of that is in the condition of the road, and that's based on the PASER rating. It wouldn't make any sense to reconstruct a road that's in good shape, and it wouldn't make any sense to apply a sealant to a street that's in poor condition. Now we'll get into what we have planned for this year and what we have already started for this year. We have our annual projects, Sidewalk Ramps, Cape Seal, a Mill and Resurface, and a Sidewalk Replacement. We also plan to reconstruct Hardin Street. We have reconstruction of Niagara Street between the railroad tracks and Genesee is underway. We have the rehabilitation of Norman Street, which is underway, the Norman Street Bridge, and then we are going to improve 3 railroad crossings. The ADA Sidewalk Ramp project is done every year. They start with locations we've received a complaint on, and then we expand in that same general geographic area so that we don't pay exorbitant prices to do one ramp in one part of the city, another ramp in another part of the city. We try to keep them relatively close together and do whole intersections. If you put in one ramp on one corner, you have to have a receiving ramp on the opposite corner. That is part of the ADA law, and we comply with that. We expect to bid this project out later this summer after July 1st, and we'll hopefully start in September and complete the project before the snow falls. Our 2020 Cape Seal project started last week. The contractor is Farner Asphalt Sealers. They are a local contractor located near the wastewater plant up on Vets Memorial Parkway. And they started by crack filling. We have to do that procedure first, and then we have to wait 7 days before they can come back and apply the chip seal in the micro resurface. They will be back next Monday. The work is being performed on Hoyt Street between Washington and Genesee, and on South Warren between Holland and Hoyt. This is a project completely funded with Act 51 funds, and generally we'd like to see a PASER rating of 5, 6, or 7. These roads have PASER ratings of 6. It is just a sealant. It doesn't provide any structural improvement to the road. It just seals the surface to keep water out, and it helps to rejuvenate oxidized pavement. The streets will remain open during construction, and we expect that this project will be done probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We have an ambitious 2020 Mill and Resurface project, and this year we're combining some local streets and major streets. ACE Saginaw Paving is the contractor, and our street set, we will be doing our Adams Boulevard between Rainick and Alexander, Getz and Graham between Mackinac and Court, 6th Avenue from M13 all the way up to Washington. That's a very long stretch of roadway. In North Carolina between Court and Davenport, and Warren between Hoyt and Millard. Our budget is, we're using $575,000 of major street money and $225,000 of local street money. This is starting right after Memorial Day, and it should be done sometime in August. Streets will be closed and detoured during the project. And I'd like to add that on all of these streets, our water and sewer maintenance crews have come in and taken care of or replaced any lead or galvanized water service. They are very busy right now this week permanently placing pavement patches so that we can get in there and do this work. It's a huge undertaking to get all of this done so that we can come in there and know that they will not be digging up the road next year. The 2020 Sidewalk Replacement project is already underway. In fact, it will probably be done next week. And the contractor is Geyersbach Construction. This is funded with major street, local street, and general fund money, but the residents will be billed for the costs per the city ordinance. We also have the reconstruction of Hardin Street in front of the Lutheran Seminary. That is starting right after Memorial Day. The roadway will be reconstructed with drive approach, curb and gutter, has a stretch of sidewalk on the south side that there's no sidewalk now. The Lutheran Seminary is going to move their fence back, and we will be putting sidewalk in at that location. We have drainage improvements, and we're replacing the water main. The contractor is Blue Restoration. The bid was around $610,000. The funding is made up of road money, local street road money, sewer money, and water funds. And that project will go most of the summer. We're trying to get done before they open again, if they open again, but that was the plan in August. The road will be closed to through traffic during construction. Niagara Street is our federal road project in this year, and it's 1.2 lane miles of HMA reconstruct. The road is currently concrete, but it'll be put back like the area, like the road south of the railroad track, the asphalt. It will have new driveways, ADA sidewalk ramps, drainage improvements, and there are some water improvements, although most of the water main is not placed as it's newer. The contractor is Tri-City Groundbreakers, and it's a $1.4 million project. It's funded with $954,000 of federal road money. We are contributing Act 51 money and sewer funds and water funds for those costs. That project started in mid-April. The contractor actually asked to start earlier. It was supposed to start in May, and we agreed to allow them to start earlier. We're hoping to have that project open in July, and the road is closed, and there's a detour in place on Michigan Avenue. The Norman Street Bridge rehabilitation is underway at this time. That project is funded with $720,000 of, it's actually state bridge funds. They ran out of federal bridge funds, and then we're contributing $180,000 of Act 51 funds. The contractor is Grand River Construction. The whole superstructure, which is a bridge deck, the sidewalk, that will all be replaced, and the beams underneath are being rehabilitated or repaired, and there will also be reconstructing the approaches to the bridge. That project started in mid-April. The contractor did start a little bit late due to COVID-19, and they had the right to do that. They decided to start on April 20th. They're going right along, and it's quite a sight to see. If anyone is out there, they might like to see that. I would like to say that in June, we closed this bridge. It was declared or deemed structurally deficient by the latest bridge inspection, and this bridge would remain closed if we had not done this project. We have 3 railroad crossings that we have planned to reconstruct, and we applied for what's called Local Agency Highway Railroad Grade Crossing Surface Improvement Funds. The local jurisdiction has to apply for those funds, but it provides 60%. The state pays the railroad for 60% of their costs, and then the railroad has to pay 40% of their costs to repair their tracks, the asphalt or road surface in between the tracks, and then 18 inches on either side of the tracks. The city or local jurisdiction is still responsible for the approaches, and we will be spending approximately $100,000 to do the approach work on these 3 crossings. East Holland, which is east of Washington or M13, South Jefferson, which is down by our water and traffic facilities, and then Davenport Avenue, which between Niagara and Michigan. Both Jefferson and Davenport were redone, resurfaced a couple of years ago, and well, Jefferson was just done last year. Davenport was done, I think, the year before. But we're playing catch up, and we're going to do the part that we boxed out and did not do because it was in the way. Normally, you'd want to do that at the same time, but we were not able to secure the funding, and we felt like the roads needed to be done at that time. We will be coordinating that work with the railroad, and we're hoping that we will be able to work out an agreement with the railroad to have their contractor do the work, and then we will have an agreement with the railroad and pay the railroad for the actual costs. Roads will be closed during that work. This is just a pie chart that shows you that 40% of the funding we're using is non-city funds, but 60% of it is city funds. That would include anything water, sewer, roadway. It's all included in that amount. Then we have a lot of other projects ongoing right now that are mostly tied to the general fund, with the exception, I think, of Davis Road. But we have City Hall fire alarm upgrades. We have the abandonment of water main on Davis Road, demolition of parking ramp number 1, which is at 220 Baum Street, the rehabilitation of the north parking lot on the north side of the public service building. We have building repairs being done to the traffic engineering building on Jefferson Avenue. And we have the Tuscola Street pedestrian pathway, which is kind of a streetscape on what's vacated Tuscola between Washington and Franklin Street, and then we have the resurfacing of Washington Avenue or M13 between Johnson and Potter Street. The City Hall fire alarm upgrades is a project to bring this building up to fire code for the fire alarm. It's $26,000 project. Audio Central is currently working on this project, and they should be done sometime by the end, well, sometime in July or by the end of July. Davis Road water main abandonment, the 36-inch finished water and the 48-inch raw water supply lines under Davis Road are being abandoned as part of the Saginaw County Road Commission's rebuilding of Davis Road, and the contractor's M&M. This work is being done as part of the Saginaw County Road Commission's contract. It's an MDOT project. They're using federal road funds to rebuild Davis Road. Our portion of the cost is $450,000. We will be paying that to Saginaw County Road Commission, and because they're paying the contractor, and I believe those agreements have already gone to council. That project is currently underway and is expected to be completed by the end of October. Demolition of parking ramp number 1, that's down there in the block bounded by Baum, Franklin, Federal, and Janes. And the pre-construction meeting was held last week by phone with Dorr and Associates, and they will be starting probably within the next 2 weeks. The cost right now is $744,000. That includes $105,000 of asbestos abatement, and that will be what they start with. That project will be completed hopefully much sooner than the end of December, but probably sometime this summer. The city plans to build a parking lot at that site when funding is available. This Friday, we're going to start a project to refurbish the parking lot on the north side of the Public Services Building, and it's a crush and shape, and then a resurfacing. There is some minor curb work, and the contractor is Jaeger Asphalt, and the cost of this project is $130,000, and we expect that project to be completed in 2 weeks. We have a project starting sometime by the 1st of June for repairs to the traffic building, which is over on Jefferson Avenue. And we have a leaky roof, that's what you see there in the picture. And we also have a wall that has some damage. And the project will take care of both of those things. J.R. Heineman is the low bid, and the cost of that project's $188,000. The project is funded with major street, local street lighting funding, and then water and sewer funding. Water and sewer is funding that because traffic provides traffic control setups for all of the water and sewer work that they do in the right-of-way. And all the entities that are funding the repair of the building are the funds that fund the personnel in that building. That project is expected to take all summer and eventually be completed in October. The Tuscola Street pedestrian pathway is a conversion of this vacated Tuscola Street to a pedestrian walkway with street amenities like benches, lighting, planters with vegetation. There's bollards on there. It's a decorative sidewalk. And not only does it have decorative street lights like you see downtown, but the plan has strings of lights across it, making it a very inviting place. That project right now we did take bids on the project. It is over the bid is over the amount of our available funding, so we're currently looking for other funds to help fund this project. It was scheduled to start right after Memorial Day, but that's likely to be delayed. This project is already done, and hopefully everyone has noticed that, but the state used maintenance dollars to Mill and Resurface Washington between Johnson and the Dow, Potter Street and Lake State Railroad office down there. And it was $169,000. I have that on here because we actually bid the project, we awarded it, and they will reimburse us for all construction costs, and they also reimburse us 8% of that cost for our overhead and cost affiliated with bidding the project. This year, we talked to the streets foreman. He didn't really want to say where he might go next to spend some money to do some road repairs. The needs are everywhere, but, and we did reduce the budget a little bit this year. We generally have been budgeting about $500,000, and this year we decreased it to $440,000. Last year, they resurfaced 23rd Street between Weber and Hess, and they also did extensive concrete repairs on Cumberland between Hess and Weber, same area. These are pictures of some of the work they did in previous years. These are just some lists of our future construction. This gives everybody an idea of where we intend to go. There's other things that are not on here, but in general, we want to keep going with our annual projects, our ADA Sidewalk Ramp project, our Sidewalk Replacement project, our Mill and Resurface, our Cape Seal. What we'd really like to add up there, and we tried this year, but we did have to cut it, we didn't have enough money, is an annual concrete road repair project. And it's our goal to eventually be able to have that on here also as an annual project. The fifth project down there, Mackinac Street, the reconstruction between Alexander and Hamilton and water main improvements, is our big federal project that is currently under design, and we're hoping to have that turned into MDOT within a month for next year, for a January bid letting of 2021. It does have water main, a new water main in portions of it. We also are expanding our work scope because all of the manholes are bricks, so they're going to be replaced. We're replacing all catch basins. It's a huge project. It's a very long stretch of roadway. Also, we have 17th Street here. This is our 2020 Community Development Block Grant Road, which we have not done yet. That's under design as well. From Whittier to Walnut, that's a rehabilitation. The intersections are concrete. The blocks in between are asphalt. And I know water and sewer have already been in there and replaced all their lead and galvanized lines. So we're hoping to get that designed. And we have on here 2021. If there was a possibility of getting that bid out and started this fall or completed this fall, we would proceed with that, but we think it's still too tight, too big of a project, and it will probably be next spring. Baum Street Reconstruction, that's just a little block. That project was on our CIP previously, and we had to cut it. But there is one block of sewer there that has backfall. So this is really a sewer project where we've agreed we would replace the block, replace the water main at the same time, and that we would rebuild the road. That's a brick street. We're not using the bricks again in that particular block, but we do intend to save the bricks. We kind of have an idea that we might like to use them somewhere else. And the streets foreman has said he will find a place to stockpile those. So that's a little project we have going. Center Street Bridge, that's our next year's project. Rehabilitation, we'll be replacing the joints on the Center Street Bridge, and there's also some concrete nosing, and I believe there's actually, we're sealing the piers, and I think there might even be some overlay that's going on. That project is also moving to the final design stage, and we hope to have that to MDOT within the next month and a half to get it on the schedule for a January bid letting next year. We left on here the surface parking lot at 220 Baum Street because that's fully designed, ready to be bid. We're just waiting for the demolition and then, of course, funding to build that new parking lot. Hancock Street and Ames. Hancock between Michigan and Niagara, that's 2 blocks, and then Ames between Hamilton and Niagara. This would be a reconstruct. These are major streets, but they're not federal aid eligible, so this will be done with Act 51 money. And it will be new sidewalk, new curb on Hancock between Michigan and Hamilton, but between Hamilton and Niagara would be a resurface, but there is water main replacement in both blocks. There's also water main replacement on Ames. That would be a reconstruct between Hamilton and Niagara. This project on the bottom, East and West Holland. So it's East Holland out here on the south side of City Hall between Water and Washington. It's West Holland between Woodbridge and Hamilton, and then it's East Remington between Water and Owen. All streets would be, it's concrete road repairs. There's some areas where there would be asphalt. So we're calling this a rehabilitation, so kind of a hodgepodge. But on West Holland, there would also be some water main improvements and some drainage improvements. And we'd also try to incorporate railroad improvements to the railroad tracks on East Remington. That is our federal aid project, or our federal road project for 2022. And then we're just rounding this out with some of the future things. We already have been awarded, bridge funds are awarded 3 years in advance. So we just received in December notification that we have received 2022 funds for the Genesee and Holland Avenue Bridge projects. We have Lapeer Street on there. We applied for community development block grant funds for 2021. We don't know yet whether we'll get that. That's a continuation of the Lapeer Street reconstruction and water main replacement. We have Adams and Cass on there. Those two are between Michigan and Niagara. We want to reconstruct those with new water main, except there's no water main between Hamilton and Niagara on Adams. But the other 3 blocks would have new water main, and that's a project that we just keep pushing out a year because we're sort of waiting for the development to happen at the Case Funeral Home. We would like them to do the development first, just because we want to know where they want the drive approaches, the utility hookups. We don't want to have to dig up the new roads. So once we have some kind of an approved plan, we can work with them and get those roads reconstructed. We do have a plan to construct a multi-use pathway through Wicks Park Drive that will be part of the current Riverfront Trail and Iron Bell Trail that would go all the way from M13 all the way up to Fordney Street. And we have applied for the DNR grant. We know they've received it. We did have to provide some additional information that's due Friday. So we're hopeful that we'll receive that money. That would be a project that would be done in 2022. This section of Mackinac is the one we skipped. It's between Congress and Alexander, and that's our federal 2023 project using federal road funds. And then that would be the end of the current transportation improvement plan that we're in, that's already been presented and approved by the Federal Highway Administration. And 24, Jefferson, reconstruction from Hoyt to James, that would be a project that we propose in the next transportation improvement plan. So it has not been presented and has not been approved by the Federal Highway Administration at this point in time, but that's what we would propose. And then you see at the bottom, you have Hess Avenue. That would be a project we would propose for 2025. In between, you see we have State Street there. The state of Michigan is planning to reconstruct State Street from the city limits to Bay in 2024. That does include all new water main and new storm sewer that they would be paying for, will be paying for the water main. If you have questions, you can contact myself, and my number's on the screen, or Louis Taylor, city engineer, or Travis Hare, and their numbers are also provided. I hope this has been informative. Thank you.